Hello, and welcome to another episode of English Listening Stories for Beginners. Today's story is emotional, personal, and full of real life lessons. It's about trust, betrayal, and the strength to move on. The title of our story is My Husband Cheated with His Ex. As you listen, you'll learn new English words, expressions, and sentence structures, all in a slow and clear voice, perfect for improving your English. So put on your headphones, relax, and let's begin this powerful story together. I met my husband 5 years ago at a friend's birthday party. He was charming, well-spoken, and had this gentle way of listening that immediately made me feel comfortable. We talked for hours that night about work, about travel, about books. And even though we had just met, it felt like I had known him forever. After that evening, we started seeing each other more often. Coffee dates turned into dinners, and casual texts became long phone calls. He made me laugh, he remembered the little things I said, and he always made time for me, no matter how busy he was. It didn't take long for me to fall in love with him. He proposed after a year of dating. It was a simple proposal, nothing too fancy, but it felt perfect. We were at the beach during sunset, just the two of us, and he suddenly knelt down and asked me to marry him. I said yes immediately. We both cried a little. It was one of the happiest moments of my life. Our families were thrilled, and soon we started planning the wedding. Everything seemed like a dream. The wedding day was beautiful. We got married in a small garden with only our close friends and family around. He looked into my eyes as he said his vows, and I remember thinking, I'm the luckiest woman in the world. After the wedding, we moved into a small apartment in the city. Life wasn't perfect, but it was peaceful. We shared responsibilities. He cooked breakfast. I packed his lunch. We would watch TV together after work, laugh at silly things, and even argue sometimes, but never anything serious. Every night he would kiss me on the forehead and say, I love you. And I believed him. I trusted him with all my heart. I often thought about how lucky I was to have a husband who was not only my partner, but also my best friend. He was always supportive of my goals. When I decided to go back to school to finish my degree, he encouraged me every step of the way. When I had long nights of studying or felt overwhelmed, he brought me tea, helped with the house chores, and told me I was doing great. I admired his patience and his kindness. He even got along well with my parents. They loved him and often told me how lucky I was. Our friends would call us the perfect couple, and I started to believe it too. To the outside world, everything seemed wonderful, and for a long time it really was. We also traveled a lot. Every year we planned at least one trip, just the two of us. We'd go hiking, visit museums, try new foods, and take hundreds of pictures. I remember one trip to Italy where we got lost in a small village, but we didn't mind. We laughed, walked hand in hand through narrow streets, and had the best pasta of our lives. Those memories still feel so real to me. I used to think, if this isn't happiness, then what is? On weekends, we would have small traditions. Saturday mornings were for pancakes and music. Sunday afternoons were for long walks in the park or watching movies in bed. We talked about starting a family, about buying a house, and even about growing old together. We dreamed out loud, made plans for the future, and promised each other that no matter what, we would face life together. We even made a list of baby names once, laughing at how different our choices were, but agreeing that we'd figure it out when the time came. I truly believed that our love was strong. There were no big warning signs, no obvious red flags. I felt safe with him emotionally and physically. I knew he wasn't perfect, and neither was I, but we made a great team. We had ups and downs, just like any couple, but I never once imagined that he could betray me. To me, he was loyal, honest, and committed. I thought we had built something solid, something real. I was proud of our relationship and the life we were creating together. I had no idea that beneath that perfect surface, something was quietly beginning to break. It started with the small things, things I didn't notice at first. He became quieter, more distracted. At dinner, he would look at his phone more often than usual, and when I asked what he was reading or who he was texting, he'd say it was work. I believed him. His job could be stressful sometimes, and it wasn't unusual for his boss to call him late or for a project to suddenly need attention. But gradually, the distance between us started to grow. He stopped asking about my day, stopped laughing at my jokes, and started spending more time outside the house. He began coming home later than usual. At first, it was just once or twice a week, and he always had a good reason. An important meeting, a client dinner, or traffic. But then it became a pattern. I would wait for him with dinner on the table, and he would text that he was running late. Sometimes he didn't text at all. When I asked him if something was wrong, he brushed it off. He said I was overthinking and that he was just tired. I wanted to believe him. I told myself that people go through phases, that stress can make anyone act distant. I didn't want to create a problem where there wasn't one. But the feeling in my chest kept growing. This strange heaviness, a quiet alarm I couldn't turn off. He stopped hugging me in the mornings like he used to. He stopped making plans for the weekend. When I suggested going out or taking a short trip, he said he was too busy. Even when he was home, he seemed far away. He would sit beside me on the couch, but not really be there. His eyes stayed on his phone, and his answers were short. I began to miss him even when he was in the same room. I noticed he started caring more about how he looked. He bought new clothes, changed his hairstyle, and even started going to the gym more regularly. While part of me wanted to be supportive, another part of me wondered why the sudden change. When I complimented him, he would smile, but not the way he used to. It felt like his smile was meant for someone else, like his mind was somewhere far from me. I tried to reconnect with him. I planned special dinners, wrote him sweet notes, even suggested counseling. But every effort I made was met with a cold wall. He said I was imagining problems, that nothing was wrong, that everything was fine. One evening, he left his phone on the table while he was in the shower. I never used to check his phone. We had always respected each other's privacy, but that day I felt something I couldn't ignore. My hands trembled as I picked it up. I didn't have to search much. There were messages from her, his ex. The one he had told me years ago was out of his life completely. The messages weren't just friendly. They were intimate, familiar. They talked about meeting in places he never mentioned to me, about memories they shared, about feelings he never spoke of anymore. My stomach dropped. I scrolled through the conversations, each word cutting deeper than the last. It wasn't just emotional. It was physical, too. He had been lying to me for weeks, maybe months. Everything started to make sense now. The late nights, the sudden mood changes, the way he avoided my eyes when I asked him if everything was okay. I sat on the edge of the bed, his phone still in my hand, trying to process what I had just seen. My heart pounded, my mouth felt dry, and my mind raced in 1,000 directions. I wanted to scream, to cry, to ask him why. But more than anything, I wanted to rewind time and go back to the version of my life where I still believed in him. Where I still believed that the man I married was incapable of hurting me like this. When he came out of the shower, I looked at him, and something inside me shifted. I saw a stranger in front of me, someone who had been living a double life while I had been holding on to a lie. After that night, I couldn't sleep. My thoughts kept circling around those messages. Every word felt like a knife twisting inside me. I kept asking myself why. Why her? Why now? What did she have that I didn't? I had believed him when he said the past was behind him. I had trusted him completely, but now all those moments that once felt warm and loving suddenly felt suspicious and cold. I wanted answers, but I wasn't ready to face him yet. I needed to be sure of what I saw. Maybe I had misunderstood something. Maybe I was just jumping to conclusions, but deep down I knew. I knew the truth was right there in front of me, and I had to confront it. Over the next few days, I watched him closely. I noticed how quickly he would grab his phone whenever it buzzed. I saw how he would tilt the screen away from me, how he typed with a certain kind of urgency, and how he smiled at his phone in a way he hadn't smiled at me in months. I stopped talking as much, hoping he would notice, hoping he would ask me what was wrong. But he didn't. He was too busy hiding whatever life he was living behind that screen. One night, I decided to check again. He had changed his password. That was all the confirmation I needed. Still, I wanted proof, not just for myself, but because I wanted to hear the truth from his mouth. I wanted him to admit it. I remembered that he sometimes left his old laptop in the study room. It had been sitting there untouched for weeks. One afternoon, while he was out, I turned it on. To my surprise, it wasn't locked. I opened the browser, and there they were, emails, chats, and call logs. Some messages were old, going back months, while others were recent. They had been talking long before I even noticed the changes. He told her things he no longer told me. He called her beautiful, shared details about our fights, and said things like, "I miss how it used to be with you." My hands shook as I scrolled. He had given her my place in his life, piece by piece, until there was no space left for me. They had met more than once. I found details, times, dates, places. He had taken her to the same coffee shop where we used to go. He had spent hours with her on days he told me he was working late. He even sent her pictures, selfies with silly captions, things he used to send me when we first started dating. I felt nauseous. My chest tightened, and I had to sit down to stop myself from falling. It was one thing to suspect it, another to see it written so clearly, so carelessly. Later that week, I followed him. I felt like someone else entirely, someone I didn't recognize. I had never done anything like this before. I waited outside his office until I saw him come out. He wasn't alone. She was with him. I recognized her from an old photo he had shown me once, back when we talked about our past relationships openly and honestly. At least I thought so. They were walking close, not touching, but there was something between them that only two people with history could share. I watched as they got into a cab together. I didn't follow. I didn't need to. I had seen enough. Back home, I sat alone in the living room, staring at the photos on the wall. Our wedding picture, a trip we took to the mountains, a birthday party where he had kissed my cheek while I smiled into the camera. Everything looked perfect on the outside. No one would guess the kind of storm that was building behind those smiles. I wondered if she knew he was married. I wondered if he had told her everything or just what suited his story. Was she just as guilty? Or did she believe she was getting a second chance with someone who had made a mistake in marrying me? None of it made sense. I kept thinking of all the times I had defended him, trusted him, loved him with everything I had. That night, I couldn't hold it in anymore. I asked him directly. He denied it at first, laughed even as if I was being paranoid. But when I mentioned her name, the smile disappeared. He looked away, then down at the floor. His silence said more than any words could. My heart broke a little more in that moment. I knew what I had seen, what I had read, what I had felt all along. He didn't say anything at first. He just stood there, frozen, like a child caught doing something wrong. I waited, staring at him, my arms crossed tightly over my chest, not to protect myself, but to hold myself together. I repeated her name slowly, firmly, making sure he couldn't escape behind denial or confusion. His eyes shifted away from mine, and I saw guilt written all over his face. It was in the way his shoulders dropped, the way he swallowed hard, the way he tried to find the right words but couldn't. Finally, after what felt like forever, he whispered, "It's not what you think." But we both knew that wasn't true. I asked him to sit down and talk. I wanted honesty. I told him I already knew, that I had seen the messages, the emails, the pictures, and that I had even seen them together. There was nothing left to hide. He ran a hand through his hair and sighed. Then he began to speak, slowly, like each word was difficult to say. He said he didn't plan for it to happen, that it started with a random message, just a "how have you been?" from her, and that it felt harmless at first. He said they were just catching up, that he didn't intend to betray me. I didn't believe that. You don't accidentally text someone for months, meet them in secret, and lie to your wife without intention. He admitted that the first few conversations brought back old memories, that he had been feeling distant from our relationship, and talking to her gave him some kind of escape. I asked him why he never came to me, why he didn't talk to me if he was unhappy. He said he didn't want to hurt me. That sounded ridiculous to me. He didn't want to hurt me, yet he did the one thing that could tear me apart. I sat quietly, letting him continue. I wanted to hear it all, even if it broke me. He said they met up a few times just to talk at first, but it didn't stay that way. He admitted they had been intimate more than once. He said it with his head down, avoiding my eyes. I felt like my whole body had turned cold. I had imagined this moment so many times in my head, but nothing could prepare me for hearing it from his mouth. Each sentence he spoke was like a hammer hitting a part of my heart. I had cried so much already, but in that moment, I couldn't even find the tears. I was just numb. I asked him if he loved her. He paused for a long time before shaking his head. "No," he said, "it wasn't about love. That made it worse somehow. If it had been love, maybe I could understand it. Maybe I could reason with it. But to risk everything to lie, to betray me, and not even for love, that felt cruel. It made me feel disposable, like I was just the safe option, while she was the one he ran to when he wanted excitement or comfort or something else I couldn't give. He kept saying he was sorry, that it was a mistake, that he regretted it, but his words felt empty, like they were meant to fix things quickly, to undo the damage. I told him this wasn't something a simple apology could fix. Trust, once broken like this, doesn't just heal with time or words. I had believed in us so deeply, had built a life on the foundation of that belief, and now that foundation was shattered. We sat there for a long time, saying very little. I kept looking at him, wondering how I didn't see it coming, wondering how someone who once made me feel so loved could become a person capable of hurting me so deeply. He looked lost too, maybe scared, maybe ashamed. I couldn't tell. I didn't know what he expected from me in that moment. Forgiveness, understanding, a second chance. I didn't know what I was supposed to feel either. I just knew that nothing between us would ever be the same again. After our conversation, the silence between us became heavier than words. We still shared the same space, but everything felt different. I went through the motions of daily life, but inside, I was falling apart. I would wake up every morning with a sinking feeling in my stomach, remembering all over again what he had done. Even the simplest things became reminders. His toothbrush beside mine, the sound of his footsteps in the hallway, the scent of his cologne. Everything that once brought comfort now made my heart ache. I kept asking myself how we ended up here, how someone who once made me feel like the center of his world could now be the reason for my sleepless nights and endless tears. He tried to act normal in the days that followed. He cooked breakfast, asked how my day was, even tried to hold my hand once, but I pulled away. His touch no longer felt safe. It felt like a lie. I couldn't pretend, not when every moment reminded me of his betrayal. Sometimes I wanted to scream at him, to throw things, to make him feel just a fraction of the pain I was carrying. Other times, I just wanted to disappear, to close my eyes and wake up in a world where none of this had happened. But reality doesn't work that way. I had to face it day after day, even when it hurt more than I thought I could bear. I began talking less. I stayed in the bedroom longer. I avoided meals with him. I stopped asking where he was going or when he'd be back. I didn't care anymore, or at least I tried not to. There was a strange kind of numbness taking over, like my emotions were too heavy to carry, so my mind just started shutting down. I didn't recognize myself. I had always been someone who believed in love, in second chances, in the goodness of people, but now I questioned everything. I doubted my own judgment, my ability to see people clearly. If I could be this wrong about the man I married, what else had I been wrong about? People started noticing. My friends asked if I was okay. I lied to them, said I was just tired, just busy. I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't want the pity in their eyes or the awkward silence that would follow the truth. I wasn't ready to let the world know what was happening behind closed doors. We had always seemed so perfect to everyone, and I didn't want to hear them say they were shocked or disappointed. I wasn't ready to explain how the man I loved had broken me in ways I didn't even know were possible. I started writing in a journal, something I hadn't done in years. Every night, I poured my thoughts onto paper, trying to make sense of the chaos inside me. Some days, I wrote letters to him, letters I never planned to give him, just to release the anger, the sadness, the betrayal. I wrote about the way he used to smile at me, about the promises he made, about how he made me believe in forever. Then I wrote about the lies, the messages, the moments he chose her over me. Writing became my therapy, the only place where I could be completely honest without fear of being judged or misunderstood. He kept asking if we could talk, if we could fix things, but I didn't know what to say. I didn't know if I wanted to fix something so deeply broken. I didn't know if forgiveness was even possible. I wasn't sure I could ever look at him the same way again, or trust him with my heart the way I once did. I had always believed that love could survive anything, but now I was learning that sometimes love isn't enough. Not when trust is gone, not when the damage runs this deep. Nights were the hardest. When the world was quiet and I was alone with my thoughts, the pain became sharper. I would lie in bed, staring at the ceiling, wondering what she had that I didn't, wondering if he missed her now, or if he was only sorry because he got caught. I played every memory in my mind like a film I couldn't stop watching. I questioned every word he had ever said, every excuse he had ever made, every time he told me I was the only one.